Live from Aspen, Colorado, this is Aspen Ideas Digital.
Welcome back to day 2 of Aspen Ideas Digital. My name is Zinklea Asamoah, a reporter with NBC News Now and your host of this digital festival. It is the 18th year of the festival, and I'm so glad you're joining us right here online. We've got an awesome lineup of programming for you today, and today is actually crossover day. What does that mean? Well, there are a lot of elements of the Aspen Ideas Festival, and this is the day when they overlap. Our campus and stages are filled, and we're really thrilled to bring Aspen Ideas straight to you. So please grab your coffee. I have my black tea. Turn your brains on and keep your screens on, because here's what the lineup is. So yesterday we talked about aging with grace. We heard from some beauty and aging experts about what that looks like. And we talked about the stability of our democracy and the ways in which it may be at risk. And we also explored the minds of innovators, right? What makes someone successful and what often leads to failure. Today, we have another full day of programming with what we call the Afternoon of Conversation, which brings together attendees under the Benedict Music Tent for an afternoon of inquisitive dialogue. This is an Aspen Ideas staple, and we're so excited to have it this year. This year's Afternoon of Conversation will feature former Secretary of Education Arne Duncan, White House Infrastructure Coordinator Mitch Landrieu, Senator Rob Portman, The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg, NPR's Mary Louise Kelly, and renowned journalist Katie Couric. There will also be a special message from the front lines of Russia's invasion of Ukraine from President Volodymyr Zelensky. But before we get to all of that really incredible and what I'm sure will be insightful programming, there's a lot more content to enjoy, including a conversation I had just yesterday with Neil Katyal. He's the former Solicitor General of the United States and has actually argued more cases in front of the Supreme Court than any other attorney of color. That's surpassing Thurgood Marshall. So I think these are some insights you'll definitely want to hear, especially with the SCOTUS decision that we've seen and so much more. So let's take a listen, and I'll meet you on the other side. Well, welcome back to Aspen Ideas Digital. I'm your host, Zinklea Asamoah, reporter with NBC News Now. And right now, I'm joined by Neil Katyal. He's the Paul and Patricia Sanders Professor of Law at Georgetown University and previously served as Acting Solicitor General of the United States. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Also very impressive, you've argued more SCOTUS cases in U.S. history than any attorney of color, surpassing Thurgood Marshall's record, which I think is very impressive. So,
well, thank you. It's probably the only thing I'll ever surpass Thurgood on. I mean, he was amazing. But
time will tell, and as are you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And given your expertise, it's only fitting that we talk about SCOTUS and this recent decision. You have argued 45 cases before the Supreme Court, many just within the last 15 years. What's your reaction to Roe being overturned?
Heartbreaking. I think the Supreme Court does best when it is careful and goes slow and respects the views of prior courts. That's a kind of judicial humility that's baked into our legal system. It's the principle known as stare decisis, or respecting legal precedent. And Roe versus Wade has been that legal precedent for 50 years. And Roe was itself a 7-2 decision of the Supreme Court. There are 9 justices. 7 of those justices were appointed by Republican presidents back in 1973. And yet the Supreme Court upheld a woman's right to choose in Roe versus Wade, and then re-upheld it again in 1992 with a decision written by Republican appointees to the Supreme Court, Justices O'Connor, Kennedy, and Souter. And what they said is, look, we know Roe is controversial, but it is now baked into the fabric of our law in our land. Social expectations have crystallized around it. And so, Roe was safe up until this very aggressive move by the United States Supreme Court. And it is heartbreaking, it's wrong, it's anti-constitutional, and profoundly destructive to women's equality.
And there has been obviously a lot of critique of the Supreme Court. Even right now, we know it's a conservative majority, and even Republicans have spoken out. Senator Collins calling out 2 justices, saying that they contradicted themselves from their judicial confirmation hearings. What do you say? Because some are saying these justices need to be impeached.
So I think that the court, first of all, we have a long-standing precedent, and I still believe in precedent, that you don't impeach Supreme Court justices for decisions you don't like.
You stand by that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the law since 1804, and and it'd be profoundly dangerous. Like my first case was representing Osama bin Laden's driver at Guantanamo against President Bush and Donald Rumsfeld and all those people, and the Supreme Court sided with the Guantanamo detainee, bin Laden's driver, over the President of the United States. I don't want, and there were calls for the justices to be impeached after that decision. I think that's a dangerous path to go down. At the same time, what the Supreme Court did here is profoundly, profoundly wrong. And I think they need to be called out on it. You called it a conservative court, but I don't think that even begins to describe what the Supreme Court did in this abortion decision. It's a hyper-conservative, hyper-aggressive court, not bound by precedent. And so I think we need to call it out for what it is.
You talked about your experience with Guantanamo. What do you think makes this different? Because people did call for justices to be impeached after that. What makes your case different from what we just saw?
Because I think Roe versus Wade is one of the few cases that Americans know by name. And it's, in a way, the hardest case of any to overrule, because you had those Republican justices back in 1992 saying, look, it's so essential to what social expectations are. People go to college based on, what state they're in, and, women make certain choices. All of that is now being ripped and undone. And, like a woman who has, cancer or something like that and needs an abortion in order to begin chemotherapy. I mean, there's example after example of things that women have taken for granted, women and men, for 50 years, and it's now gone. And that's very different than like Guantanamo, where there was no legal precedent the other way. If anything, the legal precedent supported the result in Guantanamo, and that's what the Supreme Court said. So this is a real break with what the Supreme Court's been doing for the last 5 decades. That's what makes it so different.
No, thank you for breaking that down. And I wanted to talk about something I haven't heard discussed as much, which is the trickle-down effect to states. Because I think there's been conversation about the fact that this conservative court, many of them appointed by conservative presidents, if not all, and I was just reporting in Florida, where that state has a privacy clause that some view stricter than the U.S. constitutions, and it's made it hard to restrict abortions in that state. Impossible? No, but hard. And I wonder if you think there's a trickle-down effect with what we've seen from SCOTUS on the local levels in the local courts.
That's a great question. So in our constitutional system, we have federal constitutional guarantees, United States Supreme Court. Right to privacy is what has been used to undergird Roe versus Wade. And then we have state constitutions, and they often have similar provisions, like a state right to privacy.
Right.
And you're absolutely right to ask, well, okay, the U.S. Supreme Court, they can strike away the federal constitutional right, but there's still the state right that's in place. Now, technically and formally, the U.S. Supreme Court can't opine on state law. That's up to the state high courts to decide.
As in they can't override state law.
They can't override. They can't even say what it means, really. So they can't interpret the Florida right to privacy clause in the Constitution. That's up to the Florida Supreme Court, okay? But you're absolutely right to say, isn't there a kind of subtle effect when the U.S. Supreme Court says, as a matter of federal law, there's no right to privacy guaranteeing right to an abortion? Doesn't that influence what state courts will do? And the answer is it probably does. Formally, it shouldn't. There are two sets of different laws made by different sovereigns, but as a matter of realpolitik, of course. And so the battle will move to the states on some of these abortion cases. And then the other big battle will be what's next. So Roe versus Wade has been overruled now on abortion. What about marriage equality, something I spent 4 years working on? What about the right to contraception and Griswold versus Connecticut, which is the basis, of course, of Roe versus Wade. So once they overrule Roe, why won't they be overturning Griswold? That's something that within a few hours of the leaked opinion that came out about 2 months ago, I wrote a piece in the Washington Post saying this is not just about abortion. It's about marriage equality. It's about the right to contraception. It's about the right to privacy more generally. All of those were threatened by the draft opinion. And Justice Alito's final opinion that was released last week for the court, same thing. He doubles down on all this. So I think it's very, very scary.
And I wanted to talk about that because the justices named it, right? They named Griswold. They named contraception and gay rights. Do you think that precedent will be overturned?
Yes, I think right now they're gunning for it. Justice Thomas was express in saying, I want to overturn all this stuff. He curiously didn't mention Loving versus Virginia, the right to interracial marriage, but he did list a lot of other cases. And the logic of Justice Alito's opinion undoes all these other things. And Justice Alito says, well, those cases aren't about abortion, and we're only deciding abortion today. And that's true about every case. You're only deciding the facts of the case in front of you, but it's the legal reasoning under the case. What do they say in the opinion that matters? And what they're saying in the opinion is basically no right to privacy and indeed a real threat to marriage equality. So this is a very serious step by the United States Supreme Court, not just on abortion, but more generally.
And I want to make sure we don't lose the fact that you have argued before the Supreme Court and will be and are expected to in October about the death penalty. Talk to us about your case. What are you arguing and hoping for?
Well, I mean, it's a pending case, so I generally don't talk much about it. So I'll just say what the facts are. So basically, or I'll just say, Arizona has a death penalty scheme that is incredibly permissive and forbids the juries from getting information like whether or not someone is ineligible for parole. So juries always thinking in a death penalty case, hey, if I don't give this person the death penalty, maybe they'll go out free one day and commit more crimes, more murders or whatever. There's a whole class of people in Arizona who are parole ineligible because their crimes are so serious or whatever. So the choice for them is only death or life imprisonment. They're not getting out. And those folks facing death row want to tell their juries that in the criminal cases. And Arizona has restricted their ability to just tell the jury the facts.
So the jury does not know that.
The jury thinks if we don't give death, this person might go free one day. And lo and behold, there's actually, they're not going to be able to because of the crimes they've committed or whatever. So, so it's just about hiding information from the jury, and of all things, the death penalty. It is, so that's basically the argument.
And I want to wrap up by asking, we saw protests after this Roe decision. A lot of folks are upset, especially I think of younger people, because the Supreme Court is not a political position. That's a lifetime appointment. Are you hopeful for the future of our country?
I'm always hopeful. I'm an optimist. And I do think the Supreme Court has veered off of cliffs before and righted itself over time. But it's going to take a lot of work for this Supreme Court to right itself.
How would this be righted?
Well, I think through taking a look at what they said and saying this isn't right. This is not our Constitution. This is not America. This is not what Dr. King called the moral arc of the universe bending toward justice. This is bending the other way. It's profoundly anti-American. And my hope is that the current justices on the Supreme Court come to realize that, and if not, there will be new justices. And we have to make absolutely sure that every justice appointed to that court from now on, is really consistent with these foundational principles about equality, privacy, liberty.
Well, Neil, thank you for your insights and your time, especially during a time like this.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and thank you all for watching. Thank you, Neil, so much for sharing your insights with us. So now let's take a look at what's happening for the rest of the day with our rundown and calendar. First, join us at 10 a.m. Mountain Time for an important conversation about stopping hate in all of its forms. So that includes mass shootings, anti-Semitism, anti-Asian violence, and so much more. In those conversations, we have Dana Koester, Jonathan Greenblatt, Eric Liu, Manusha Kulkarni, who will discuss actionable solutions to these challenges and issues. Then at 11:15 a.m. Mountain Time, we have a really fascinating conversation between Pico Iyer, Elaine Pagels, and Simran Singh, where we'll break down cultural differences between different parts of the world, like the West's individual-centered ideologies and what we see elsewhere. And we'll talk about how those might be able to change or how we might be able to learn from one another. Then at 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time, Arthur Brooks will make his return to Aspen Ideas with a lecture on how to want less. So if you're someone who likes to shop, I may relate to that. That may be something you want to tune into. And they'll help us think about how to curb our desires and find a different path to fulfillment. Then at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I hope you're taking your notes. I know these are a lot of times. 1 p.m. Mountain Time, we have an exclusive virtual-only interview with the winners of the Aspen Challenge, which is an Aspen Institute program that provides inspiration, tools, and a platform specifically for young people who can design solutions to some of our most pressing challenges. Make sure you tune in and ask questions to those winners about their projects and experiences. I've gotten to see a taste of those projects and they're super cool, so I'm excited for you to take a look. And as I alluded to earlier, we're going to have an afternoon of conversation. So lastly, we'll be joined by Chuck Sams and my colleague, Gotti Schwartz, and Christine Tompkins at 11 p.m. Mountain Time, 11 p.m. Mountain Time. And we'll hear from a conservationist who helped protect 15 million, yes, 15 million acres of land and 30 million marine acres of land in South America and the U.S. National Park Service first indigenous director on the ways that wilderness transforms people and the planet. So there's a lot of content and a lot to come here and listen to. I'm very excited. And I think you should definitely have your notepad ready because the conversations we're going to have are incredibly provoking. So we've got a lot of content, as I said, and now we're going to take a look at some of those winners from the Aspen Challenge. The program, as I said, provides inspiration, tools, and a platform for young people to design solutions to some of our biggest problems. So let's take a look and hear from these winners directly, and I'll meet you on the other side.
Aspen Challenge is really unique. Honestly, it was like one of the greatest things I've ever done.
It started with the opportunity to have students recognize their ability to face challenges, to face issues in our city as the future leaders. I now look at it and say, oh, that's what Aspen Challenge is.
Aspen Challenge is inspirational. There had 18 schools, right? 5 challenges. It was over 8 weeks on the clock, and I was like, how can these different schools come together to form different new ideas and new ways to fix the city and the problems presented to us at the Aspen Challenge? And what I saw was something amazing.
When it was first sprung onto me, I was like, dang, this is something that I want to do. Because I look at myself as a leader. I'm an overachiever, and I'm like, challenge ain't nothing to me.
Our Alliance project was about creating awareness for rising sea levels within Louisiana.
We decided to do Marlon Peterson's challenge, which was kind of the narrative of violence and the upticks in spring and summer. The way we solved it was via community outreach events, like our Pop-Up Shop event, and to sustain it, we used a benefit dinner to gain money from the community.
We started a whole kindness week, Bridge Buddy program. I'm doing a documentary. I'm pretty proud of all the things that we started doing.
The Aspen Challenge gave me a platform where I could try new things and I could find my own solution. I've done a lot of programs and summer camps in which they gave you a problem and they wanted you to find a solution, but you never got to implement your solution. And that was what I loved about the Aspen Challenge. I got to go out and I got to put my solution to work, and I got to see the results, and I got to see the people I touched, and that really matters to me.
The Aspen Challenge itself, it made me feel heard because, one, within the team, I felt like I had a voice and I could voice my opinion. Also within the community, I felt like we were making change. We were trying to raise awareness, and we saw as people sort of rally behind us. Our school, local businesses also partnered with us. It just felt like we were part of something bigger, something more than just 10 people in a room meeting every Friday. It felt like we were actually going to make some change.
One lady gave me a hug, and she was like, oh my God, I love what y'all are doing for the community. Thank you, keep up the hard work. And I got emotional. I was like, oh my God, and I gave her a hug. It was lovely. I was so excited. That really made my mood just better for the entire day.
I'm just excited that they've had this opportunity, and to see them really lean in to this opportunity is really amazing.
I do not think it would be an overstatement to say that this has been a life-changing experience. This is now a fundamental part of their lives and a part of their high school experience, and they're already talking about, like, how do we pass this down? I'm just so proud of how they're viewing this and how they really view this as an opportunity to make lasting change in their community. They really just needed the permission. Like, they just needed the permission to go, and then they just went. I mean, it's just been absolutely incredible to see.
I haven't done something like this before, so it was a great experience for me to just learn new things.
I'm most proud of, it's not more like being proud of, I'm more just happy to continue it. Like, I'm happy for our accomplishments now, but I also want to have more accomplishments in the future.
I could say the Aspen Challenge changed me in ways, like, usually I start some stuff and I might not be consistent, or I might not apply myself to it as long as I hope. But this time I had no choice. Like, I applied myself the whole 8 weeks. I was really consistent, and it shows. We did good.
Congratulations to all those Aspen Challenge winners. What a cool program, and also an equally cool setting. I've actually been there. That's Studio C in New Orleans. It's a Black-owned studio, so very cool all around. Congratulations, and we hope you'll join us this afternoon, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, for a virtual Ask Me Anything, literally anything, with a few of the Aspen Ideas Challenge students that are here to present their big ideas and solutions to change and challenge their community. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. As I said, we have so much programming in store, so we hope you tune in. And there is so much coming your way that you can continue to track online at Aspen Ideas, or use our hashtag and follow it, Aspen Ideas. And you can see our full schedule by clicking the home button at the top of your screen. So the home button at the top of your screen, I'm assuming it's somewhere this way, or by visiting aspenideas.info/digital. That's aspenideas.info/digital. I'm your host, Zincle Asamoah, or at Simply Zincle with NBC News Now. And we look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow for your morning update, 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time. I will bring my caffeine, you bring yours, and I'll see you right there.